And here is this mainstream media, CBS morning show goon, parasite, absolutely morally vapid, sick son of a bitch, accusing someone who dares give the Palestinian perspective, which happens to be the real perspective, accusing him of being extremist literature. I'm just going to play some of this interview and watch how they attack him. I have not read Ta-Nehisi Coates' new book. Most of you probably know he's hugely famous. He's considered to be, many talk about him like he's the top black writer in America, and he is an excellent writer. And he wrote an excellent book. Was it Between the World and Me or something like that? That I did read. That was it's excellently written about racism in America. He then put out a book I did not read that was basically, largely endorsing the Obama presidency. So proving that he doesn't really understand the system. And he got in a fight. One of the viral moments was he got in a Twitter fight years ago with Cornel West, where Cornel West was representing like true leftism while Ta-Nehisi Coates was defending Obama. But that being said, he has a new book out where a lot of it deals with Palestine, reveals that, Palestinians are an oppressed people in a horrific way. And mainstream media, especially white media, does not like that because he's their golden boy. To see a golden boy turn against you, it's a real problem.
Conflict, and there's so many quote-unquote issues to be dealt with.
Ta-Nehisi, I want to dive into the Israel-Palestine section of the book. It's the largest section of the book. And I have to say, when I read the book, I imagine if I took your name out of it, took away the awards and the acclaim, took the cover off the book, the publishing house goes away, the content of that section would not be out of place in the backpack of an extremist. And so then I found myself.
Now, don't worry, I'm going to get to his response, but I just wanted to, as he says that, it is the most offensive, disgusting question, total propaganda, because think about this. What is more extreme than genocide? What? So to be anti-genocide is not extreme. It's rational. It's moral. So the idea that a segment of his book that is pro-Palestinian, that unravels and tears apart Israeli propaganda, is at home in an extremist backpack or whatever this idiot says, is just so disgusting because it is upending the word extreme. Extreme is genocide. Extreme is ethnic cleansing. Extreme is over 40,000 innocent people dead in 1 year. Extreme is bombing hospitals. Extreme is bombing schools. Extreme is rolling over with bulldozers cemeteries to destroy people's pasts. Extreme is bombing mosques and churches. Yes, churches. Extreme is murdering UN staff. Extreme is torturing UN staff so that they tell you things you want to hear, even if they're not true, that the UN was involved in October 7th. That's extreme. Extreme is using rape as a form of torture the way Israeli military does. And in fact, the Knesset had a discussion as to whether that was okay, and they decided, yes, that is okay. And a couple of the soldiers who were involved in that were then imprisoned, and there was such an uproar in Israel over them being imprisoned that they were released and viewed as heroes. That's extreme. That is the absolute definition of extremism. And here is this mainstream media, CBS morning show goon, parasite, absolutely morally vapid, sick son of a bitch, accusing someone who dares give the Palestinian perspective, which happens to be the real perspective, accusing him of being extremist literature.
Of wondering, why does Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I've known for a long time, read his work for a long time, very talented, smart guy.
If he knows him that well, he would probably not mispronounce his name. Now, I've heard people say Ta-Nehisi Coates. I've heard people say Ta-Nehisi Coates. Either way, he said Ta-Nehisi Coates. He's got an SH in there. So he's not, they're not buddy-buddy. If you don't know his name yet, you're not buddy-buddy.
Leave out so much. I read his work for a long time, very talented, smart guy. Leave out so much. Why leave out that Israel is surrounded by countries that want to eliminate it? Why leave out that Israel deals with terror groups that want to eliminate it? Why not detail anything of the first and the second intifada, the cafe bombings, the bus bombings, the little kids blown to bits? And is it because you just don't believe that Israel in any condition has a right to exist?
And then to throw the right to exist garbage at him. The right to exist is the stupidest propaganda trope ever. But let's hear Ta-Nehisi's response.
Well, I would say the perspective that you just outlined, there is no shortage of that perspective in American media. That's the first thing I would say. I am most concerned always with those who don't have a voice, with those who don't have the ability to talk. I have asked repeatedly in my interviews whether there is a single network, mainstream organization in America with a Palestinian American bureau chief or correspondent who actually has a voice to articulate their part of the world. I've been a reporter for 20 years.
And the answer is no, there's not. And there won't be. Because they are in the job of U.S.-Israeli propaganda. And he's absolutely right. What is my job? What is his job? What is the job of anybody who is not in your mainstream media? I mean, apparently his job used to be running cover for Obama, but seems to have a little bit woken up. But yeah, spitting out the same tripe that you get from mainstream media, that doesn't equal unbiased. Like, if I came on every day and listed something that Putin did wrong, you can't get that somewhere else. I'm bringing you the stuff that your U.S. media will not bring you. You don't need me to tell you, oh, a cop got a kitten out of a tree. Let me report on that. The police, why do you never talk about the other day there was a police officer and he helped save someone's dog? Why do you never talk about it? Why are you censoring the news? I don't feel that propaganda needs to be done more by me. I think it gets handled. And that's what Ta-Nehisi Coates is saying about Israeli propaganda, pro-Israeli. You think, do you need more of that?
The reporters of those who believe more sympathetically about Israel and its right to exist don't have a problem getting their voice out. But what I saw in Palestine, what I saw on the West Bank, what I saw in Haifa in Israel, what I saw in the South Hebron Hills, those were the stories that I have not heard. And those were the stories that I was most occupied with. I wrote a 260-page book. It is not a treatise on the entirety of the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis.
But if you were to read this book, you would be left wondering, why does any of Israel exist? What a horrific place committing horrific acts on a daily basis. So I think the question...
Oh, glad you finally said it. Glad you finally threw that out there, you scum of the earth. It does commit atrocious acts on a daily basis. And how ridiculous would it be if someone who was actually doing the work to be like, hey, Israel had 5,000 hostages, Palestinian hostages before October 7th. Hey, they are abused. They're tortured. Many of them are women and children held in prisons that have no way out. They are hostages. And Israel was doing that pre-October 7th. How weird would it be if I did a report on that pre-October 7th, and then I said, but also Israel has great knishes. Also, Israel, the sunshine is second to none. What? You absolute ass clown.
Is central and key. If Israel has a right to exist, and if your answer is no, then I guess the question becomes, why do the Palestinians have a right to exist? Why do 20 different Muslim countries have a right to exist?
Actually, Palestinians apparently don't have a right to exist because they're not a nation. They're not allowed to become a nation because of Israel. Netanyahu has repeatedly held up maps of Israel that erase Gaza and the West Bank. So what do you mean have the right to? They don't have the right to exist. Not in terms of a nation state. They don't. And Israel will never allow them to become a nation state because if they became a nation state, they would have rights. They'd have UN codified rights, such as the right to have a military, such as the right to have control of your food and water, such as the right to come and go as you see fit. Other nations are not allowed to build a fence around a country that's not theirs and say, You other people can't come out or leave. You can't come or go. Now, you can build a fence. A country can build a fence around themselves and say you can't come in here. I don't like nation states, but I don't like walls either. But they could do that. But you can't build a wall and say you can't leave your own country. We have a wall between the U.S. and Mexico, or some of it because of Trump and his idiocy, etc. And we try and stop people from coming in. But we don't tell Mexico you're not allowed to let your citizens leave. People in Mexico can fly out of Mexico and go to other countries. You see the difference? One is an open-air prison. Anyway, so no, Palestinians don't have a right to exist.
If Israel has a right to exist, and if your answer is no, then I guess the question becomes, why do the Palestinians have a right to exist? Why do 20 different Muslim countries have a right to exist?
My answer is that no country in this world establishes its ability to exist through rights. Countries establish their ability to exist through force, as America did. And so I think this question of right to Israel does exist. It's a fact. The question of its right is not a question that I would be faced with any other country.
But you write a book that delegitimizes the pillars of Israel. It seems like an effort to topple the whole building of it. So I come back to the question, and it's what I struggle.
The pillars of Israel are what? Apartheid, occupation, torture, military violence, bombing, violating all global norms of warfare, if you were to pretend that this were a war and not a genocide. Those are the pillars that are upsetting to you?
Struggle with throughout this book. What is it that so particularly offends you about the existence of a Jewish state that is a Jewish safe place and not any of the other states out there?
And there it is. There it is. The bullshit that these Israeli propagandists spit out. Israel equals Judaism, right? Every Jew is a Zionist. Every Jew wants to be in Israel. Many Jews have a dual citizenship. Yeah, some Jews do. Also, millions do not. There are millions of anti-Zionist Jews, like myself, okay? And Israel does not make Jews safer. It makes Jews unsafe. My parents went to synagogue a couple of days ago, and there were armed guards at the synagogue. Why is that? It's not because of anti-Semitism disconnected from Israel. It's because of, now, some of it is definitely over-exaggerated, but let's, for the sake of argument, say it was actually needed, that an armed guard was actually needed. It's because Israel has made anti-Semitism vastly worse around the world because they tell people to conflate Jews with Israel and they are committing a genocide. So they tell people, hey, essentially all Jews are committing genocide right now. That's basically the propaganda they push. And that's the propaganda he's pushing right there. Oh, it's the only safe place for Jews. Really? Because most Jews do not live in Israel. So how is that the only safe place?
There's nothing that offends me about a Jewish state. I am offended by the idea of states built on ethnocracy, no matter where they are.
Muslim included.
I would not want a state where any group of people laid down their citizenship rights based on ethnicity. The country of Israel is a state in which half the population exists on one tier of citizenship, and everybody else that's ruled by Israelis exists on another tier, including Palestinian Israeli citizens. The only people that exist on that first tier are Israeli Jews. Why do we support that? Why is that okay? I'm the child of Jim Crow. I'm the child of people that were born into a country where that was exactly the case, of American apartheid. I walk over there and I walk through the occupied territories and I walk down the street in Hebron. And a guy says to me, I can't walk down the street unless I profess my religion. I'm with another No. I want to. This is very, very important. It is extremely important.
Let me lay it down.
I'm working with the person that is guiding me is a Palestinian whose father, whose grandfather and grandmother was born in this town. And I have more freedom to walk than he does. He can't ride on certain roads. He can't get water in the same way that Israeli citizens who live less than a mile away from him can.
And why is that okay? Why is that? Why is there no agency in this book for the Palestinians? They exist in your narrative merely as victims of.
I'll let him keep going a second. But why is it? It's because the IDF has big guns, you asshole. What do you mean, why is it? They have no agency. The other side's got giant guns. What kind of stupid question is that? And they will shoot people for no reason. And they will not serve any time in prison when they do that.
Of the Israelis, as though they were not offered peace at any juncture, as though they don't have a stake in this as well. What is their role in the lack of a Palestinian?
I have a very, 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 very moral compass about this. And again, perhaps it's because of my ancestry. Either apartheid is right or it's wrong. It's really, really simple. Either what I saw was right or it's wrong. I am, for instance, against the death penalty. What the person did to get the death penalty, it really doesn't matter to me. I don't care if they were selling a nickel bag of marijuana or if they were a serial killer. I am against the death penalty. I am against a state that discriminates against people on the basis of ethnicity. I'm against that. There is nothing the Palestinians could do that would make that okay for me. My book is not based on the hyper-morality
What's the last
of the
message you
Palestinian
want
people.
in lessons? Because many people feel it's complicated. You say it's not complicated. Less than 20 seconds. What's your message?
Less than 20 seconds. I want people to read the book.
Well,
Yeah.
And I don't make the assumption that somebody would just read the book and have read nothing else about Israel
Okay,
and Palestine.
you're still invited to High Holidays. Let's see.
Oh, God, what an ass clown. And then he's got to wrap it up. Don't worry, you're still my buddy. It's like, no, you just tried to make him seem anti-Semitic, which if you had succeeded, luckily, Ta-Nehisi Coates was able to handle that and handle it well. And, you know, I wish he'd attack some of the wording like this seems extreme. No, genocide's extreme. I wish he would have done some of that, but he handled it very well. And he absolutely put this guy in his place for the most part. But this guy was trying to get Ta-Nehisi Coates canceled. He was trying to get, because if he had succeeded, you'd have many other media outlets calling him anti-Semitic. And I'm sure some are. But if he had succeeded, it would have been a lot more. And he could have destroyed this guy's career with his garbage angles if he hadn't gotten good responses back. And anyway, what a sack of human garbage. But you wouldn't hear this type of interview, these type of questions. So it strikes me that you probably hate the Jews. Is that the case? Is that what's going on here? You wouldn't get those kind of questions with any other topic, or probably any other writer, but especially any other topic, because this is the one where they feel comfortable maligning people and treating them like this in an interview. I just wanted to show that, and to also give some of the angles that Ta-Nehisi Coates didn't have time to hit on, or, you know, in those interviews, there's no way to parse everything that's being said and every wording that's used to try and manipulate people, as that guy was doing.